vegan for about 2.5 years now. My dad's been vegan for 7 years. Some of my closest friends have been vegan for a while. So I actually first went vegan because I was with two of my vegan friends and we went to like a drive-through fast food place. And I was ordering like a chicken burger, and then they just said, kind of, we are very honest friends, to be honest, like quite brutal people. They just kind of turned to me and were just like, oh, so an animal's just died for that. And at this point, I'm not gonna lie, I think I was just quite naive to it all. I just like had never sat down and thought that. So then in that moment, felt really rubbish. Don't know if I ever even ate the chicken burger. And then after that, I was like, oh, I'll just give it a go. Like, I'll just go vegan. I kind of just like threw myself in. I didn't really do the whole vegetarian like transition thing. And yeah, I think that's like what I always say. It's like, I think I only didn't go vegan before that just because I wasn't acknowledging, like, it's the association. And I'm sure that's what it is for like loads of people. Because I always think, because my dad's been vegan for so long, I don't understand why I never did before. But it's because I just didn't think about it. And I think, you know, we're in a society where we're kind of like pushed to not think about it. And not so much now because vegan's a big thing and people are out there talking about it. But yeah, best decision I ever made.
Yeah. It's sort of testament, I suppose, to the way your dad sort of carried about his business, that you almost just took it as normal. It was just like, well, I haven't really thought about it. He's just vegan and that's the thing, you know?
Yeah, and I think because he went vegan so long ago, because I think even the difference between now and 7 years is huge, you know, like it was still, there weren't that many people, and it wasn't like you would always seen like a vegan option. So I think I kind of just let it like slide under the rug. And that's why I think like hats off to people that were vegan way before me, because realistically we've got it easy now. It's like such a,
Yeah,
you know, like
100%.
accepted thing. And he must have found it really difficult, but I think people are just so sure of their morals and things, and I always think that's just like so admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. When did the baking start? Did that start well before, I take it did, well before the veganism started?
Yeah, so I actually sort of like learned to bake with my gran when I was really young, because we always did it. So I used to go around there every week because she just always loved baking. But more just, she just baked for her family, nothing like crazy. And then I have always baked, but I stopped for a while because I was like a competitive gymnast. So I like did loads of other things. And then when I first went vegan, I then started baking again, like more intense, because there are more now, but there weren't that many vegan cakes out there. And I really got into it, and that's probably where like the proper baking started. But yeah, I've always baked because I just really love it. I think it's the best thing ever, because I just think it makes people so happy when you like bring them stuff around.
100%, absolutely does. Thinking about like when you started to get serious about it, when did kind of the Bake Off enter your vision as something, you know, maybe I'd like to get involved in that?
So I've always watched the Bake Off ever since it first came out. Never thought anything about like going on it. And then, so it was the series before mine, the 2020 series. At that point, I still wasn't really baking like that intensely. But I watched it and I just remember thinking like, I don't understand why nobody's going on there and doing it vegan. I was just a bit like, oh, come on, it's 2020. It's about time somebody does. And I was a bit like, well, if no one else is going to, like, I'll try and do it. But at this point, I wasn't like seriously into baking. But you've got to do so many sort of like application processes to be on the show that I actually like I got way better just in that like short amount of time. But even then,
Right.
I don't know if anybody that applies for the show thinks they're actually going to get on, because like me and my family and things were like, come on now, like they're not going to have a vegan person, you're not going to get on. So I was very sort of like shocked by it.
Was that in like application 1 that you said, hey, I'm vegan and I'd love to be on the show?
Yeah, application 1, you sort of like fill out a written form online and send it off. Oh yeah, straight off the bat, I was like, I want to do this vegan. Like, yeah, very much vegan. Because I was like, well, I don't want to hide anything. Because at that point, I thought they might be like, no, we don't want any of that. And I didn't want to be like part of the way down the line and I'm like, oh no, like eggs are a no.
Yeah, yeah. And what can you remember there being a conversation when you went down the process? Was there a conversation about it between you and the show?
So basically, it was never really even like brought up. People just were like, oh, you're really good, irrelevant of if you were vegan. But I do remember one thing. So in the in-person audition, right near the end of the application process, you had to take a cake. And I took like a really, really layered like entremet cake that I was like, it's one of the best things I've made, like for sure. And I remember taking it and you had to sit in a room and then they like tried it. And then I'd said, and they were like, oh my God, it's so good. And then in the end, it just as a passing comment, I'd said something like, oh yeah, like, because it's vegan. But like the woman then was like, wait, it's vegan? And both of them were like, oh my God, we didn't realise. And then that's when they were like, oh, like, it's so good, I can't believe it. But before that, I think, because I was never like pushing it on people, I made it clear.
Yeah.
I think they were just like quite shocked by it. But they did say to me like I would have got on the show if I wasn't vegan anyway. It was just more like that was just me.
Amazing, amazing. And did you have to address with them kind of like, you know, that I want to actually do the whole thing vegan, so I'd rather not be, you know, using animal products in my cooking?
No, they were just like you can do what you want. They were just like you can use it one week if you're
Really?
not like they weren't like they basically like it's just up to you. All the recipes and everything that you do are all your own anyway. So it was kind of like it didn't matter to them.
Right. What's the kind of preparation like then for you? So you obviously have to bring quite a lot of recipes to the show. Like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
long did it take you to come up with those recipes?
Yeah, so you get like told the technicals and the signatures and things, which I sometimes think people like don't think. I think they think you just like think them up on the spot. So you get them a bit before. I can't fully remember how far in advance it is, and you sort of like practice them. Which obviously, because they're just such long challenges. I think like the bread one was maybe like 5 hours and stuff. So you've got to like really in depth plan it. I mean, I actually was doing uni at the same time, and I was
Right.
working. So I remember it was kind of like everything was just getting a bit of my attention and nothing fully. And now when I look back on it, I mean, I'm so pleased with how I did, but like I wish I put all my attention into Bake Off because I heard other people practice every single one like 10 times, and I was lucky if I did the whole thing
Right.
once. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, so that's the opposite of what I thought you were going to say. I thought you'd say like my friends and family had to eat the same cake 50 times.
Yeah, I mean, they did end up eating a lot of cake, but it's just I just was really struggled for time because it's so difficult to do like a
Yeah,
degree and
I
that at the
bet.
same time. Like people just don't know, but I sat like an exam while I was there on the first practice day when everyone else was practicing. And yeah, I ended up like not having to sit too, and it was just a really busy time for me.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So when you finally get there, what was that experience like? What was the experience of kind of being in the tent like compared to obviously what you'd been used to baking at home and so on?
It honestly, the whole thing was just the best thing I've ever done. Like I just like I like wish I could go back and do it all over again. I'm not really the type of person that's like overwhelmed easily or like really gets like nervous or stressed because I am quite just like it's one of them like whatever happens will happen. But I just remember it was just like I just think every single moment was just so like good and incredible and like the people were amazing and I just like wouldn't change it for anything. Like I would do it again like tomorrow.
It was like COVID times, I take it. So were there still kind of restrictions and stuff on what you could and couldn't do and things like that?
Yeah, so we were all in a bubble, so we all like stayed in the hotel. You couldn't like go home in between and things. Which at first, when I was like thinking about going, I was like, "This is a nightmare. I don't want to do it if I have to be in a bubble." And honestly, it was the best thing ever. Like me and Lizzie are obviously really close now because I
Yeah.
just think we all got so close because of that bubble. Because if you're just going home in between, you probably wouldn't. Whereas we just did everything together, and yeah, it was just amazing.
How did they all kind of how did you think the relationships kind of changed over the course of time with regards like your veganism specifically? Did you find people were a little bit held it at arm's length or perhaps didn't want to talk about it first, or what was the kind of experience like there?
I don't know. All the other contestants were just like like so amazed and like shocked. Like all of them were so sweet. They were all like, "I just don't know how you do it. Like this is so hard being non-vegan. Like that's amazing." Loads of them were like really interested. Some of them like were just very much there to win it and not really, that bothered. But a lot of them were just so sweet. And like some of them now, we have like a group chat and people put in or like people message me advice for vegan things, and it's really nice. People were just really happy about it. But I think the one thing going into the show, everyone's quite in their own lane because it's a really stressful thing anyway. So people are not really that bothered what other
Right.
people are doing.
Yeah, I can imagine. It always looks like a bit of a pressure cooker, and I guess the thing that we don't really see is like the cooking under lights, the cooking with cameras around you, and all that kind of stuff. Did you take to that fairly comfortably?
Yeah, I'm just a really chill person. So I was just quite like, and I guess like going into the show, there's going to be loads of cameras and things. And yeah, I am just really like not fazed by like things like that. And everyone was so lovely. Like the camera guys were so sweet and things. And I think if you're getting really, really stressed out by the cameras and things, like don't go on the show. There's going to be like 10 cameras in that room. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like when you did you watch it back? Because I'm always fascinated as like the edit, like how much is edited out, how much is different to how it happened. Were you sat there ever watching it going, that's not how it played out? That's been edited.
So we went across the road to the pub, like loads of my friends, like some of my family, and we watched like the first episode. Then we actually just kept going back to the pub to watch it. And oh yeah, I really enjoyed watching it. Yeah, they edit loads out, obviously. We're there filming like all day. There's only like a tiny bit, but they always keep like lots of. I was quite surprised of like some bits that were edited out. Um, and yeah, so it's not like all there, but then I just think you've got to bear in mind there's so many of us in like an hour or something. But I think they edited it really well, and I think it like came across really funny, and I really enjoyed watching it back. I watched it a few times to be fair. People always like make me sit and watch it. But yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I bet. From like a technical standpoint, and particularly with you bringing a different style to perhaps the other bakers there, did you get much kind of like technical advice or support from the likes of Paul and Prue? Did they kind of talk to you about what you were doing from a methodology point of view, like when the cameras weren't on?
Not really. No, I don't remember them ever like giving me like any sort of advice. But then maybe like what I was doing was like a bit different anyway. Oh, I think maybe on bread week when the cameras weren't there, I think Paul did actually like try explain to me a better way to knead the bread because I'd never made bread before I applied. I think it's the faff you can buy like a really
Right.
nice loaf for a quid. But now I actually do really like making it. But yeah, I think he gave me a bit of advice with regards to that. But other than that, I think the vegan thing was really quite new as well, to everybody there.
Do you think it's kind of paved the way? Can you see them doing more in this space, like more like vegan weeks and things like that?
Yeah, so obviously I know they are or have like filmed the new series, and I'm like really interested to know if there's anybody else doing it vegan. I'm not really sure. I mean, they always sort of did have like a free. Well, I think the free from week this year was maybe a bit of a cop out because it wasn't actually vegan week. So maybe they
Yeah.
will have an actual vegan week. But honestly have no idea if there'll be another person doing it vegan. It'll be really interesting to see. Um, but I think even if it hasn't like paved a way for the show, because it's a very non-vegan show, if you think about it, to have all
It
12
it
people
is.
do
Yeah.
it vegan is very years down the line. But I think if nothing else, it'll just hopefully have like paved the way for people at home to think, oh, I'll try doing things vegan, and that's all I really wanted to do.
And what was the kind of the response like from the general public? Did you get quite a lot of people kind of reaching out to you, kind of saying, I'd never tried vegan baking before, and like you've shown me something new?
Yeah, I still have hundreds of messages now of people being like, "Oh, I went vegan because of you," or "I've tried this," or like "You've really inspired me." Like that was just
Wow.
the best thing. It was so so good to get so many lovely messages and like inspire so many people. Lizzie's, I think it's her nieces, actually went vegetarian like, while I was on the show because they really liked me, and it was really sweet because I think as humans we are just
Oh,
so impressionable anyway. And I think it just takes sort of like one person to do something and like we all tend to follow. So yeah, it was really good.
yeah, 100%. And what's life been like post Bake Off?
Yeah, it's been so so good. It has been quite different. I love doing loads of food festivals. They've been good because people are always like really excited to meet you and things. Obviously, I've like written my book. I've done loads of new recipe things, and it's been really different. But like overall, just so so good.
Has the experience kind of cemented that this is the path you want to go down?
Well, I know for sure I would love to go down this path and like carry it on for like my career, but I don't know, I'm quite a realistic person and I know I need to just like scope it out and see. But I'll do it for as long as I can, and then at that point that I can't, maybe I'll go back to uni, but hopefully I won't.
We'll see how it goes. In terms of like the book, let's talk a little bit about that. So, tell us about it.
Yeah, so I knew after like straight being on Bake Off, I knew I wanted to write a book because I had so many recipes. I really wanted to share them with people because I think vegan cakes can be done really wrong. And I don't think there's all that much out there. There's more now, but the biggest thing that people say to me is it's not. So people say, "Oh, vegan bacon's so much harder," and I'm like, "No, no, it's just people don't know where to start." Which, fair enough, we all assume cakes are made from eggs. So I wanted to just put something
Yeah.
out there where people just knew like what they were doing, and it's called like Simply Vegan Baking because all the recipes are like simple to follow, like really clear, and it's sort of like I think it's really accessible for all levels of people because I love getting recipe books now just to be inspired by different bakers. But there's loads of recipes that I know like people that have never baked before would be able to do, and it's just the best thing I've ever done. Like I'm so proud of it, and like I absolutely love it. And the pictures are just so incredible because the photographer was amazing. So I always say if people don't want to bake, just get it and look at the pictures because it's definitely worth it.
I'm always fascinated by that. Like, what is the process of like pulling that book together? Like from the start of like, is this kind of like I've got loads of recipes written down already? This is just a case of like typing them up and into the right format. How does it even start, or is there a lot of development of recipes as you go?
Yeah, loads of sort of like recipe development. I think must have done like 6 different carrot cake recipes because just like wasn't quite happy with them, and it's a really really intense process because like I had only like quite a short amount of time to get all my recipes in because there's 70 recipes in the book because I knew I wanted it to come out this
Wow.
September, not the year after. So you've got like a short amount of time to do it because obviously it takes ages to sort of like publish the book. But like the actual shooting the pictures of the book was such a good week because I had like an amazing team and like really enjoyed doing it, and I would love to just do that all over again. I mean, I know I want to write another book anyway, but it was so good.
And is it literally a case of you and the team have to produce every single recipe that you want a photograph of in the book? Is it
Yeah,
as simple and
basically,
straightforward as that?
basically, I like baked every recipe that the pictures are in. I had like a food stylist that helped me out, but very much like all the decorate everything, like all the recipes were like what we baked because I sort of like baked in the studio in the day and then I went back to my B&B and then baked in the night again, ready for the next day. So it was like the longest hours. But
Wow.
it was like so good because we did it over in London because obviously there's not that many things like this out there in Scarborough. Yeah, so the studio was my photographer's studio. So basically, because she like
Oh right,
photographs
okay.
loads of cookery books, so she just has a small little kitchen bit, but it was only real small. But she's just the best. She was great.
Wow. Did you have to adapt your recipes quite a lot? I mean, you said obviously you'd gone through 4, 5, 6 versions of things, but was that a little bit of like, well, I need to think about an audience who perhaps haven't got as much experience as me before?
Well, like a key thing for all my recipes were that I wanted all the ingredients to be like accessible in normal supermarkets because I still think a lot of vegan recipes have these wacky things that you can only find in like health food stores,
Mm.
which is not a bit of me. Like I'm not in for the vegan thing just for the health. So I wanted it to be like normal recipes. I don't want people to be looking like I don't know what that ingredient is. So I was sort of like adapting them to
Mm.
make sure everything was like as if it was like basically like non-vegan. So yeah, that was real good.
What are the ones that the kind of recipes that for you you're most proud of looking back at?
So on the front cover, there's like a Black Forest Gatter, which I just think is like the best chocolate cake ever. I absolutely love that. I did make like a chocolate cake like that on the show, and Paul said it was really, really good. There's some mint chocolate chip ice cream sandwiches in there that are just so good. They're so easy to make, and everyone on the set was like, "I don't understand how you're telling me that's vegan." Like they were so good. Um, I absolutely love loads of them. Viennese Whirls, they were really good. I just like filmed a reel for Instagram, like shooting that from my book. But yeah, every single recipe, like I absolutely love, and like I'm really proud of because I definitely wouldn't have put any recipes in there that I didn't think were like absolutely perfect.
What's the kind of most common questions that you get asked about specifically vegan baking, and perhaps some of the pitfalls that people come across when they start out?
I think the most asked question definitely is just what do you use instead of eggs because people are just really thrown by that, which I totally get it because I was when I started, and I've got in like the front of each chapter, so like cakes and things, I've got like a really clear bit of like advice to explain to people like tips and things. And another thing, people are always asking, just like, is vegan butter like the same as normal butter and things like that? And I always
Yeah.
answer yes. I'm convinced it works exactly the same. But yeah, it's just these type of things that people, they don't mean it in a funny way. They actually are asking because they're like, I just don't understand like how to
Yeah.
do it, because we are so normalized to non-vegan things. And I think that is like one of the biggest things is like moving life over, that vegan seems normal. Because even now, you know,
Mm.
you see like a normal thing, then a vegan thing. And I just wish it wasn't that way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that just like doesn't work in your experience? Like any kind of particular recipes that you think actually it just doesn't translate that well, and there are kind of better vegan recipes, so like we shouldn't spend too much time worrying about trying to replicate that.
Yeah, choux pastry, can't get it right. Really struggling on that one. Did you know, like an eclair and a profiterole? I've tested loads
Mm.
of things, all been a disaster. And I think that's partly just about like the science still. Like I'm sure at some point someone will come up with a egg yolk replacements. We've got really good like egg white replacements. But I'm like a big believer in it will be. We just need to like have more
Yeah.
time for like the scientist people to sort that out. So that's like the one recipe I can't get right now, but I wouldn't stand there and say you never will, because I'm sure that you will.
Have you seen that already? Like thinking about like vegan butters and things like that, and vegan creams, and things you can get off the shelf. Have you seen like already, just in the time that you've been vegan and you've been baking, an advancement in that? Like, because it feels like technology is really like food technology is playing such a big part in the kind of like the replacement market, if you like.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I first went vegan, I'm sure there wasn't vegan double cream, or if there was, like I didn't see it as much. And now there's like the Oatly one and things. When you whip them up, they work exactly the same. And even now, like each week, people are bringing out new amazing products that are so good. I think it's because like everyone's taking over now. People are getting really excited about it. It just makes me so happy every time like I see a new product. I'm like, all right, we are moving in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier you've done a lot of festivals and kind of live cooking and stuff like that. Is there any that have kind of like really stood out for you as been amazing experiences?
Yeah, so me and Lizzie did one together, which was really exciting to be able to do like a joint demo. We still just did like a vegan bake. That was good because it was really fun to be able to like do things together. And then went to a vegan kids festival, which was miles away from our house. But it was so worth it because I came away feeling like really inspired, because I feel like sometimes you need that. You need to see, because it can be quite overwhelming and difficult when you feel like there's still less vegan options than normal, and you're a bit like, oh, are we ever going to get there? But seeing so many kids there that were like really passionate about vegan things, I was like, oh no, the next generation is going to be even better. And the kids were so made up and excited, and it was just really lovely. And they had the best vegan Mr. Whippy, which was always great. So yeah.
Which is rare. You don't tend to find that so often, do you? The vegan Mr. Whippy.
Yeah, I love Missy Whippet. It's my favourite, and I live like in Scarborough, right by the sea. So there's everywhere you go, you can get a normal Mr. Whippy, but no vegan one. I got one in Brighton once, but again, that's miles away from my house. So it was great.
Well, perhaps there's an avenue for you. If
Yeah,
if all else fails, vegan Mr. Whippy in Scarborough. That's
yeah.
what the world's crying out for. And I guess like you're often surrounded by kind of omnivorous folk. You're often surrounded by non-vegans. So I guess just being in sort of with your people, as it were, and not having to explain everything about why you're vegan and so on and so forth must have been quite refreshing in itself.
Yeah, it was really nice. And nowadays, you know, even when you're surrounded by people that aren't vegan, usually, nearly all the time, they're really interested, really nice about it, and really sweet. I mean, the other day I did actually meet a guy that was horrible, awful, really against the vegan thing. And it was just like a really like awful like conversation to have, because I think they're becoming really far and few now. Everybody's sort of thinking, I think the
Mm.
majority of people are saying, I know it's the right decision, even if I personally think it's too hard for me. Like, I know that you're doing the right thing. And I think at least that makes you feel one step better. I think when there's the few people out there that are still really, really against it, it's like quite disheartening.
Have you kind of adapted at all your approach to how you deal with those kind of conversations? Because obviously you've been exposed to, a big audience through Bake Off and through all the things you've done beyond. So has it kind of changed perhaps or informed the way that you think about veganism generally and how you talk about it with folks who aren't vegan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open for like a little debate. I like a debate. I always sort of like, I wouldn't debate something I don't really stand by, and I'm so sure of my morals and like my beliefs and things. And it's really good because my dad's very much like good at his facts, like he knows what he's saying. So I'm quite sort of like surrounded by people that really stand by, like what they believe in. So, but I'm always open to have a conversation with people because I think like the fact that we're having this conversation is one step ahead. I always say that, even when people are sort of like arguing it, being yes and no, well, we're still talking about it and it's still being pushed there and things. And I think there's nothing worse than it just being brushed under the rug and nobody's kind of discussing it, because then people are never gonna like take on and be like more vegan. So yeah, I'm always happy to discuss it.
And as I guess, like you were relatively new into veganism in the grand scheme of things when you were sort of thrust into the public limelight and kind of held up as, the first vegan baker on the Bake Off and all this kind of stuff. How did you kind of cope with that pressure? And did you feel like, you had to get more and more equipped as you kind of went through that journey, like as a vegan, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, I wish that I was like going on the show now when I'd been vegan that extra bit longer, because I do know so much more about it. I'm so much more passionate. I've always been a passionate person, but I think as each day goes by, I get more and more like into the vegan thing. And I do think I was still very sort of new to it. And I don't regret doing it when I did, because it like changed my life completely. But I do think it would have been easier for me now because I just like know that bit more, and I'm like very aware of like other things that I maybe wasn't.
Has it sort of made you think quite a bit about how you kind of present yourself in the kind of public view? And I'm thinking about the Vegan Kids Festival, because you're held up as this role model now. Like, I was lucky enough to be at the Vegan Kids Festival with you, and just seeing how many kids like were really looking up to you. Has it made you really think about like how you kind of portray that, and how you want to come across and show up for veganism, if you like?
Yeah, things like that make me like so much more passionate. And I was talking to my mum about it, and I was saying, say having like a big following, like nearly 100,000 followers, it's like that should seem like a lot of people, but because they're like through a screen and you don't see them, sometimes you need to do these like things in person, like that kids festival, to actually see people in person and see how impacted they are, for you to be like, yeah, no, I know why I'm doing this, and it reinforces why I want to be vegan, and then you get even more inspired. I think those like in-person times are really important, because I think it's quite a difficult job doing like social media, because you are quite like isolated from people, and it might seem like you've got like a huge following and loads of people that like you, but you never see those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the thing that struck me about that particular festival, and the way that you kind of showed up, and the way that you sort of presented yourself and veganism, if you like, was you made it so normal and so fun. And I think for those kids, I wasn't sort of fortunate enough to grow up vegan. Been vegan 5 and a bit years. So when I was young, I wasn't vegan. But thinking about the experience my little boy's having now, he's only 4 and he's in nursery and so on, and he's the one of the only little vegans in the class. I think he's the only vegan in the class of about 30 kids. And I'm always conscious that the sort of the fun activities that surround us, particularly fun activities that involve food, he's either not involved in, or he's involved in a kind of roundabout way. There's an adaptation, so it's not quite the same. And I think what really like stood out for me is how you just normalized it and made it so fun, so uncomplicated, and gave those kids an experience that maybe they wouldn't have had in nursery and school, because they were always the other kid, the different kid.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I remember like one girl when we were doing like the Q&A at the end, she said to me like, "Do you find it hard being vegan, or did you ever find it hard?" And I like remember like saying, and I remember thinking, you know, like even times when I thought, oh, like it's a bit difficult, like in that situation where there's maybe only one vegan person, I think we've all just got to like remember why we're doing it. And then I was thinking, come on, it's
Mm.
worth that being a little bit difficult. And I think it's like very much like a sacrifice that you're willing to make. And I don't think now it's that hard. It's made so accessible. But I think at any point, you know, like if you go on holiday and things, or maybe like you feel a bit like not left out of things, you've got to kind of like remember why you're doing it. And then like it always makes it worth it.
100%. 100%. So what's next for you? You're doing loads of stuff. Obviously, you've got the book going on, but you've been working with Lizzie, I think, doing some filming and stuff like that. There's so much going on for you. So what kind of things have you got on the radar that you're kind of excited about?
Yeah, so I've got another few food festivals. I think I must have three more this year. So my book comes out end of September, which will be really big. And then I've got two book signings in October. And then I've got like another book signing in January next year. I'm really excited to do them. I think they'll be so good. I've got one in Oxford, one in the Wirral, like near Liverpool. That'll be like so great to like meet people that are really like passionate about the book and things. And I'm just really excited to like go out to the shop and like see it on the shelves, to be honest. And then me and Lizzie are always doing loads of filming. We've got loads of exciting things like lined up and loads more videos ready to post. So yeah, be busy but good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, it's been awesome chatting with you, Freya. I've really enjoyed it. Where would folks go about? Well, we need to pre-order the book, but we need to also find out a bit more about you and whereabouts would folks go to do that.
Yeah, so my main social media is on Instagram, so it's literally Freya Cox and then like a little underscore, but it should come up. And then that is, if you go on there, it's really easy to find the pre-order to my book because it's just the link in my bio. But if not, if you just go on sort of like Waterstones, Amazon, if you just type in either Simply Vegan Bacon or just Freya Cox, it'll come up and you can pre-order it through there.
And if you're doing this, well, when's your competition close? Must be soon.
Yeah,
You've
the
got a bit of
competition
time to
closes
enter your
in.
competition.
Yeah, I think it's end of September. Yes, if you do pre-order the book, you
Oh,
can enter the
amazing.
competition to win loads of exciting things. So yeah, it'd be really good.
Amazing. Look, Freya, it's been great chatting with you. Thank you so much. Best of luck with the book. I've pre-ordered a copy. Can't wait to get cracking with baking some recipes with my little boy. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me.